Hi, I'm Andrew from Alpine Home Air Products. Today we're going to show you in the course of this video how to install starter ductwork on a furnace or air handler. Starter ductwork is a supply plenum or a return air plenum, and this is simply the large sheet metal pieces which attach to a furnace onto which all the other ductwork is connected. So we're going to actually use a sample furnace today with some starter ductwork, show how the starter ductwork is assembled and then attached to that furnace. So if you're working on your own furnace or air handler project ductwork, we'll show you how you can do it yourself. It's really quite easy. Okay, here we are in the basement. Behind me I have a return air plenum kit, which we're going to be assembling in just a moment. Before we start, I want to make a note of safety to you. Now we're going to be doing the sheet metal work on a demonstration furnace today, and you can do your own supply and return air sheet metal work on a furnace or air handler. However, it's our recommendation that you have a professional install the remaining portion of your furnace. That means have a professional do the gas piping, the venting, and the high voltage electric. Don't do it yourself. For safety purposes, we want to make sure things turn out well for you. Have a professional do that. Now you can handle the sheet metal part, but keep something else in mind when you do. Sheet metal is sharp, so take care when working around it and precautions so you don't hurt yourself. Okay, what tools are needed to assemble and install a supply and return air plenum? These are the tools. A drill chuck, and this holds and drives in sheet metal screws. A drill bit, I'm using a larger auger style bit, but you can just use a 1/2 inch drill bit if you have one. A pair of pliers, a flathead screwdriver, a hammer, sheet metal shears, and this will allow us to cut straight lines as well as circles, a marker, and sheet metal screws. Okay, let's start the assembly of the return air plenum kit. We'll begin by hooking together the two 4-foot pieces which clip into one another. Once they're in place, we tap them with a hammer, and that's it. There's one piece. And there's the other. Now we simply place the lip of one inside the fold of the other, and then tap it in place with a hammer. And then I do that all the way along the edge. Then I flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. This part's done. I'll set it aside. We'll start on the other pieces. The next thing that's done is the return air shoe or boot, as this piece here is referred to as sometimes, is attached to the bottom of the furnace. Now it attaches to the lower left or lower right hand side of the furnace. Before I do that, I'll take these tabs and bend them all down or inside, either by hand or with pliers. Let me move these other items out of the way first. I just bend the tabs down all the way around the edge, like so. Okay, we have all the tabs bent in. The next thing would be to connect the return air boot to the bottom lower left or lower right hand side of the furnace. Now let's see, if I had a demonstration furnace here, I could show you how to do that. Let me see if I can find a furnace. Okay, here's a furnace, great. Now we hook up the return air shoe or boot to the furnace. And the way we do that is simply put it in place. On the lower left or right hand side of the furnace. Then reach inside with a marker and all the way around measure, or rather mark, the inside, rectangle onto the furnace. So this shape here will be marked on the lower side of the furnace, because we're going to cut a hole out in the furnace the same size as the inside of the return air shoe. Yes, you actually cut out the lower side of the furnace. Furnaces are designed to have that hole custom cut in it. You would then cut that with your drill to make a hole opening, and then with your sheet metal shears, you cut that line all the way around. Okay, this is just a demonstration furnace, so we're not going to do that here. But let's say that we have that hole cut. The next thing is to attach the boot to the furnace. Next would be put it in place. You'd simply put the boot in place, and then using your drill and your sheet metal screws, you put screws in through the lip, this little half-inch lip, on the return air shoe, right through the furnace body. Put about 3 screws on each side, and that will hold it tightly in place. Okay? So let's assume that that part's done. Let's talk about assembling the rest of the return air plenum. Next, we'll put this piece on top. Now, before we do that, it's connected with these, 2 of the smaller drives and 2 of the longer drives, which are included in the complete package. These 2 pieces, the longer drives, go on first on the long lengths, and if you look at it closely, there's a little L to it, and the short end of the L faces to the outside of the return air boot, and it simply slides on the lip and is held on in place just by the pressure. Like so. So those are both on. The next thing is to put the longer 4-foot piece here right on top, slipping it inside of these drives. An easy way to do it is start at one end, put one end in first, and then rock it into place to get the other end in. It just fits right down in there. Like so. And it's on. Next thing I do is put on these 2 little drives, one on either side, and they simply slide in place. If there's any little bends in the metal, if it doesn't look flat or straight, you can just go ahead and get your pliers or hammer and straighten it out. So I take one of these drives, bend one end over 90 degrees, and then it simply slides on that's it. It's in place. We'll do the same thing on the other side as well.